Welcome to the Newsmax Daily for Wednesday, July 31st, 2024, National Avocado Day. One of the few things that most people really like and is really good for you. America alone consumes nearly 3 billion, yes, with a B, 3 billion pounds of avocados a year. Today is also National Mutt Day, and who doesn't love an adorable mutt, right? If you have one or have had one, you know they make for some great pets as well, some of the best pets. And topping the news this morning, Hamas claims one of its top leaders was killed in Iran's capital city of Tehran while attending the inauguration of Iran's new president. The group is blaming Israel, which hasn't commented on that, but did say that it has killed a Hezbollah leader in Lebanon, which Israel attacked yesterday in response to the deadly airstrike in Israel over the weekend. This is Newsmax's Sarah Williamson with the breaking news.
This strike has been confirmed by the IDF, and they targeted a specific area of Beirut called Dahiyeh. Now, Dahiyeh is a Hezbollah stronghold where you basically have to be a member of Hezbollah in order to enter. Now, these areas, these Hezbollah areas, is the same. It's the same, I think you remember at the start of the year, there was another strike on a Hezbollah leader by the IDF, and that's the same location. There is a number of little suburbs there that are completely controlled by Hezbollah. You've got to remember they also have a seat in parliament there in Lebanon. So even though they are a terror organization and, you know, Lebanese people are completely separate for it, they do actually hold some kind of political power there. But the IDF have been asking people in the north of their region to remain in place and seek shelter ahead of this, knowing that that there is a chance that Hezbollah might retaliate straight away. A senior Hezbollah commander is apparently being taken out. This is a report that I still haven't got confirmation on yet, but this is allegedly a Hezbollah commander that was in charge of the attack on Majd al-Shams in northern Israel just a few days ago, which killed 12 Druze, that's an Arab minority, 12 Druze children in Israel. Hezbollah is denying that they did that, but of course they did. There is no other rockets that come from that direction.
Again, that's Newsmax reporter Sarah Williamson. President Biden, remember him? He's been briefed on all of this. And unrelated to the events in the Middle East, the White House calendar says that the president has several meetings at the White House today, including a lunch meeting with the vice president, who campaigned to be the president last night in Georgia. Former President Donald Trump is in Chicago today, not campaigning, but attending the National Association of Black Journalists annual convention. You can expect to hear a lot about this today. Trump, the Republican nominee for president, and Vice President Harris, the presumptive Democrat nominee, were both invited to the event. Kamala, who potentially could be the first black female president, isn't attending. I guess she didn't want to cancel her lunch with Joe. I don't know. Meanwhile, last night, while campaigning in Georgia, the border czar actually blamed Donald Trump for the border.
He tanked the bipartisan deal because he thought it would help him win an election. Which goes to show Donald Trump does not care about border security. He only cares about himself. But he and his running mate sure seem to have a lot to say about me. And by the way, don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird?
It's simply amazing, isn't it? And amazing that those people are just eating it up. And there it is again. Weird. The weird new talking point.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are.
As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance.
Super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. They're just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird, and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate are weird. Deeply and profoundly weird.
They are weird.
These Republicans just being weird, it's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird, a weird style that he brings, weird policies. Let's start with the weird thing, because it is a thing.
Just plain weird.
All right, you get the idea, and you may recognize some of those voices as your least favorite liberal media hosts. What's weird is their concerted effort to make sure they get that rarely used word into every single segment now after the vice president said it. Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance, at the center of the weird description, was also on the campaign trail yesterday in Nevada.
Make no mistake. The terrible affordability crisis, higher groceries, higher energy prices, higher housing prices, it is destroying the American dream, and it is Kamala Harris's fault. She is dangerously liberal, and she will never be the president of the United States because we're not going to let her. If you are in this country illegally, start packing your bags right now because Donald Trump is coming back.
Vance was campaigning while many of his Senate colleagues on Capitol Hill held another hearing on the Secret Service. As seen on Newsmax, acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe Jr. was in the hot seat attempting to reestablish faith in the agency after the resignation of Kim Cheadle, who resigned after last week's House hearing. This is Senator Rand Paul, a ranking member of the Senate committee.
18 days ago, a would-be assassin managed to climb onto a roof 400 feet from the stage where the former president and leading presidential candidate Donald Trump was speaking. The assassin's bullet struck President Trump, narrowly missing a fatal blow thanks to a last-minute head turn. Tragically, not everyone was so fortunate. A beloved husband and father in the audience was killed, his life stolen in an instant. 2 others remain seriously injured, their futures uncertain. The lives of law enforcement officers working the event and those in the audience have been forever changed. Yet the media has shamefully moved on to other stories, and Google has been caught trying to suppress iconic images of a bloody Donald Trump, images showcasing the resolve of our nation in the face of the attack. But the American people have not forgotten, and we will not forget. There is no question that this was a monumental failure by the Secret Service. They had one job and they failed. We know that. What remains unclear is who specifically failed, how they failed, and what must be done to ensure that something like this never happens again. America deserves to know that those responsible for this failure are frankly not going to be in charge of securing the upcoming Democrat National Convention. We need to know that someone's been placed on suspension, that someone won't be in charge of the next Donald Trump rally. Now, I was encouraged to hear that the acting director, Rowe, has initiated a disciplinary investigation in addition to the ongoing Secret Service policy review. This is an important step. However, real accountability will require a comprehensive examination of all the facts, which still remain unclear. This past Friday, my investigative team went to Pennsylvania to meet with local law enforcement and document the scene. One of the concerning things my team was told is that no one from Secret Service has talked to them since the shooting. I don't know how an investigation into what failed can be conducted without talking to the officers and agencies who were relied upon to do much of the work. Many questions remain unanswered about the planning and performance of security for July 13th. While a host of errors led to this security disaster, we now know local enforcement officers were suspicious of the shooter 90 minutes in advance of the shooting. There are 2 glaring issues we need to focus on. First, why were the AGR grounds and the roof left unattended? Why was the AGR building, the shooter's perch, left outside the perimeter? Local law enforcement told my staff that they specifically flagged the vulnerability of the building to the Secret Service and were told that it would be taken care of. Clearly, these vulnerabilities were not addressed. Second, why was Donald Trump allowed to take the stage, and why wasn't he removed from the stage when a suspicious individual was taking increasingly suspicious activities? Over 20 minutes before President Trump began his speech, the Secret Service Command Center had been made aware of an individual with a rangefinder. At least 10 minutes before it was confirmed, the Secret Service's counter-sniper team had been made aware of the suspicious subject and provided a photograph and a detailed description. Why was the event not delayed until the individual was found and checked out?
Kentucky Senator Dr. Rand Paul, and this is Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly Reports.
They let him come out there, and they knew. Why did they do that? Well, technically, it wasn't an active threat. Are you kidding me? You got to be kidding me. So this is the new acting director. His name is Ron Rowe. Keep in mind, I believe he's very close to Kim Cheadle. And I was aghast by some of the stuff this guy was pushing, starting with his overall take on what went wrong. Watch.
I thought long and hard about this. I think this was a failure of imagination, a failure to imagine that we actually do live in a very dangerous world where people do actually want to do harm to our protectees.
Are you kidding me? What world is this guy living in? He's the director of the Secret Service. He's been there for 29. If you're not thinking about this, who is? But that failure of imagination phrase, I've heard it before. Do you remember? That's what led to 9/11. So the 9/11 commissioners told us, the 9/11 report, it was a failure of imagination. We never perceived airplanes being hijacked like this. Governor Tom Kean, co-chair, this is 20 years ago.
On that September day, we were unprepared. We did not grasp the magnitude of a threat that had been gathering over a considerable period of time. As we detail in our report, this was a failure of policy, management, capability, and above all, a failure of imagination.
I understand that coming from him. Up until that point, who'd have thought they could have hijacked 4 planes at the same time, take them over, and start flying them into skyscrapers? That was hard to imagine. It really never crossed anybody's mind, but they did it. This Secret Service guy can't imagine a guy with a high-powered rifle at an elevated position taking a shot at the President of the United States. The federal government is absolutely incompetent from top to bottom. It's unbelievable. They don't even know what they know. Listen to this.
I think it was a failure to challenge our own assumptions. The assumptions that we know our partners are going to do everything they can, and they do this every day. But we didn't challenge our own assumptions of, we assume that someone's going to cover that. We assume that there's going to be uniformed presence. We didn't challenge that internally during that advance. So moving forward, I've directed that when we're talking to people and we're making requests, we are very specific about what we want. We are providing explicit instructions on exactly what our expectation is and what we need them to do and what we want them to do. That's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward beyond this.
What the hell were you saying beforehand? I have more attention to detail on this television show than this guy does. Very explicit instructions. That's a new concept to you. And this lack of coordination with the police, it goes all the way back 60, 70 years. Give me the Warren Commission report. They're finding, although the Secret Service is compelled to rely to a great extent on local law enforcement officials, its procedures at the time of the Dallas trip did not call for well-defined instructions as to the respective responsibilities of the police officials and other assisting in the protection of the president. Poor coordination then, poor coordination now. They don't know what they know. This is part of the federal government. Are you kidding me? All right, but the bottom line from this director, it was the locals' fault, and the Secret Service are total heroes.
Catch Greg Kelly Reports weeknights at 9 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. There were so many intense exchanges in this hearing, but Missouri Senator and Attorney Josh Hawley really ramped it up when he called for everyone to be relieved of their duties.
Let me ask you this. Who was the lead site agent who made the decision to leave the AGR building completely outside of the security perimeter? Who was that?
Senator, I cannot give you that name. This person is operational. They're still doing investigations. They're still doing protective visits.
Have they been relieved of duty?
Senator, they have not been relieved of duty.
I know their name, by the way. Why have they not been relieved of duty?
They are still cooperating, not only being interviewed by the FBI, but also by our Office of Professional Responsibility. And we will let the facts of the mission assurance and any further investigations play out.
Is it Isn't the fact that a former president was shot, that a good American is dead, that other Americans were critically wounded, isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the person who decided that that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down?
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out to include.
Who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision not to put that in the security perimeter?
Senator, you're zeroing in on one particular agent. I want to find out exactly what was the entire decision process. So I think I want to be neutral and make sure that we get to the bottom of it and interview everybody in order to determine if there was more than one person who perhaps exercised bad judgment.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment? So, yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here. And you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty. What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability is a challenge, is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed.
As the person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
Has the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are investigating this through a mission assurance, and as opposed to zeroing in on one.
What more do you need to investigate to know
exactly what the decision-making process was? What more do you need to investigate
to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. He was brilliant and relentless. More from Chris Plant and the Right Squad.
I mean, FBI is still investigating, yet you're seeing all these accounts from local law enforcement, et cetera, of the failures of this whole operation?
I'm incredibly confused how he got on the building. We all know how he got on the building. He was roaming around there for hours. His parents called the local police warning. The local police were trying to contact Secret Service. Secret Service was notified from 2 to 5 times. President Trump was not withheld. They didn't say, the protocol did not include, let's send over a Secret Service agent to this guy. Let's hold the former president backstage for an extra 5 minutes just to scope out the situation. That way we can avoid shooting first with this man who we don't know if he's just a Trump hater, deranged, but he's a murderer now.
Right.
Because Secret Service decided that their protocol isn't, we have to hold you and make you 5 minutes late for a rally. It's, we're going to assign the Secret Service agents to parking detail, which is what they were in charge of doing.
Yeah. And the mere fact is that anyone who's done these sorts of campaign events, you literally secure the perimeter. And that includes 150 yards away from the president, Matthew Boldy.
Well, think about this. It wouldn't even be that crazy to delay Trump, 5 minutes, because remember then during the week that Joe Biden's political career ended, he was like 4 hours late to Zoom calls. He would just be like, oh, hey, I'm not going to show up in any way on time to this. And we talked about how, being on time as a white supremacist. Well, Joe Biden obviously is dead set on disproving that. I actually am surprised that the Secret Service director resigned, because one of the hallmarks of this administration is a complete lack of accountability.
Yeah.
Obviously, of course, how many people have been fired or resigned after we gave terrorists Afghanistan? Of course, that's 0. How many people have resigned or have been fired because of the wide open southern border? Of course, that's also 0. So do we really think there's going to be any serious accountability with the Secret Service or the FBI? It would break the trend if there were to be.
That's former congressional candidate and Spectator reporter Matt Foldy, a member of the Right Squad with Chris Plant, Mercedes Schlapp, and others. The conversation is happening every weeknight at 10 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. Check it out. Greta Van Susteren also spoke about the hearing and the investigation with Texas Rep. Pat Fallon, who is a member of the new U.S. House task force investigating the Secret Service.
Well, it's no surprise to the American people that this town, Washington, D.C., is a town of no consequences. We don't know who, we have no idea who made the decision to have that size of Secret Service protection for the former president. We have no idea who completely blew off the thread of the reins, because I think any reasonable person would have added more people and not taken off. We have no idea who made the specific decision not to provide RFK Jr. with Secret Service as a very viable candidate. He's on a number of ballots. And people are making these decisions. We never get names. Who are these people that are making these decisions?
Yeah, we're going to get them on that. And that's why
Speaker Johnson form this task force. We haven't gotten them yet. When we had the former Secret Service director in front of oversight, we were asking her specific questions, and she didn't answer about 85 to 90% of the questions because there was somebody on site.
I don't think she knew. Actually, I don't think she knew. I honestly don't think she knew. I think it's a little farther down the chain that who's ever making these sort of operational decisions. I don't think she sat around her office and said, let's try not to protect the president, former president. I don't think so. I think there's sort of more institutional people who are making these really dumb decisions, and we never get their names.
Well, Greta, yeah, I don't think that she knew at the time on July 12th or July 13th, but after July 13th, she damn well should have known, and she never even went to the site. She had time to go. I believe there was reports she went to Aspen. I know she went to the Republican National Convention, but she should have been at Butler. She didn't even call the team that was the Secret Service team that was there on July 13th for 3 days. 72 hours later, a whistleblower told me that, and then she lied on her oath and said she'd called them the next day, and then then she had to correct herself. So there were clearly, we need to substantively change the culture of the Secret Service to ensure that every one of their protectees will never be harmed again.
Texas Congressman Pat Fallon on Newsmax with Greta Van Susteren. As I mentioned a little earlier, a lot is going to be made today unnecessarily of President Trump attending the National Association of Black Journalists Conference in Chicago. And you heard about this whole white dudes for Kamala thing, right? This is Todd Starnes with Bill O'Reilly.
I've got to get your take on white dudes for Kamala Harris. A lot of guys sporting the man buns in that group.
Yeah, I have a man bun. No, I don't. I wouldn't know how to do that anyway. Look, yeah. I don't know. I don't get the skin color stuff. I never got it, even when I was a little tyke. I never got the skin color. So you're a white dude, so what? Why do you have to be a white dude to vote for a Democrat? What is this? I don't understand it. Anybody who peddles this skin color stuff, this pigmentation stuff, is a blanking moron, Todd. Can I make it any clearer than that? If you're basing any kind of vote or political belief on skin color, you're an idiot. And I won't talk to you.
Yeah, once
I get that whiff.
But you know, that's exactly how they're going to go down. That's how this is going to play, Bill. They're going to play the race card and the sex card.
They're going to do it, but it should be rejected by every single decent American. Race, skin color, nothing to do with looking out for the folks. Nothing.
And the thing about this whole white dudes event is that the white dudes are mostly wealthy Hollywood actors. Jeff Bridges, who I actually really like, by the way, Mark Hamill of Star Wars fame, and some others who could care less about the price of groceries or gas and aren't really worried about keeping a roof over their family because they have 2 or 3 roofs. They're completely out of touch with real white dudes. Anyway, that was Bill O'Reilly on the Todd Starnes Show, 5 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax 2, N2. If you're not getting N2, you need to get signed up for Newsmax Plus. Simply go to newsmaxplus.com, get signed up. If you are a regular white dude trying to exist, Wall Street opened well into the green today after better-than-expected earnings from chip maker AMD, giving the tech sector a bit of a much-needed boost after the last several days. Microsoft earnings, by the way, late yesterday were short of what analysts were hoping for. Shares of Microsoft were down quite a bit at the open. Be sure to keep up with all of the news on Newsmax, Newsmax.com, and Newsmax Plus for the most complete lineup of all your favorite shows and guests, as I mentioned. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily Podcast. Share it with your friends and family, or even people you don't know. That's fine as well. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Don't forget, you can listen to it on the Newsmax.com page. Just simply click on podcasts. Enjoy the rest of your day and keep on fighting the good fight, because we need it.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home on the free Newsmax app. They go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.